Hey besties, welcome back to the Cozy Corner. It's your girl Jen, and if you're new here, welcome to regular little college student Kelsey Dominguez. But if you're not new here, welcome back to the chaos. Now, it is now December, which means it is actually time for our November TBR wrap up. And I will say, this is one of like literally the best reading months that I've had like all year, and it's crazy because like if you guys have seen my other videos, I've been like, you guys, I'm looking for a 5-star. Like, I have not seen a 5-star in sight. I've had some 4.5s, I've had some 4 stars, I've had some 4.75s, but like that full 5-star has like been eluding me this whole time. However, this month, well, technically last month, I found 3 5-stars, and I don't want to be that YouTuber that's like, oh my gosh, guys, I found like 3 5-stars this month. No, like I literally, it's been a 5-star desert. I'm just gonna come out and say it. At least for this year. Next year, I already know I'm setting myself up for a success because I'm doing some rereads. We're not gonna talk about that with this video. This video, as I already said, is a TBR wrap up. So let's get into it. I'm gonna go in from, well, if I keep myself accountable, I will be going from least to best, and my least favorite read this month is actually still a 4.25 star, 3.75 to a 4-star. Like, I have not, it's hard because I really liked the book, but there were some issues with it. And if you want to know about what those issues were, you can watch my vlog that I did on it last week. But regardless, let's just get into it, right? So first up, we have Promise of the Pyre by Vendy Emberfield. This is a debut novel. She's a debut author. Definitely go support. It's only $5 on Kindle. That's all of the hype that I'm going to give her for now, just because I've already did like a whole video, like reading vlog dedicated to this book. However, there is no however, because I still liked it. There were some issues with it, but I would definitely do a reread once let me not drop the book, right? Once the second book comes out. And of course, let me just tell you guys what it's about. So this girl, random old girl, she's hanging out at the fight club, and then she meets this cute guy, right? He's like, oh, baby girl, hey, what's up? And she's like, hi, you're cute as fuck. And then she ends up going to take him home. Well, they end up walking home together with her best friend. And then when they get home, they do some spicy stuff. The best friend already went home, and they do some spicy stuff. And in the morning, she's like, all right, I guess I'm going to move on. Later, she ends up seeing him doing some freaky shit to a female. And she's like, that's not okay. So she tries to fight him off, but then she's like, wait a second, you're weird as fuck. Like, he starts to morph into this like demon looking figure. And then it just kind of goes from there. She starts running away. Apparently magic is like outlawed in her town, and so she doesn't want to be associated with the baddie because the baddie has magic, and that means it's a quick little trip to the Pyre. And so she runs away. She meets this guy, and they end up running away together. Not like that, but like it does get like that. But like regardless, the story picks up from there. My biggest issues with the book were that I could not feel in my heart the gravity of the situation. Like, it says Promise of the Pyre. You basically get burned at the stake if you have any sort of magic. And I did tab a single page. I'm sorry. I tried to tap the book, and then I was like, no, I got sucked into it, and it's like, it is what it is. But basically, if you have magic, you get burned at the stake. But I could, like, there was no actual steaks. Like, the steaks were uncooked, unseasoned, medium rare, 6 feet below, if that makes sense. Basically, like, everything was going to be fine, and like, you kind of knew that going in. Like, there wasn't, like, that was just kind of like my only issue. But overall, the story is pretty good. Highly recommend. I will say, I can see that this author pulled from a couple of different series, like from Blood and Ash and Throne of Glass, and even Cassandra Clare's like Shadowhunterverse, and that I don't really know how to feel about, because I'm like, yes, I get that you like the, like, you need the what do you call it, the inspiration, but I feel like you could have gone with it in a different way to make it more original, or if that makes sense. Regardless, I'm still sitting on this 3.75, 4-star, maybe a 4.25, but that's like really pushing it. But I do still recommend you guys going to read it. Promise of the Pyre by Vendy Emberfield. Let's move on. Second book was The Reappearance of Rachel Price. This one, I actually gave a 4.75 because I really liked it. So we're following a girl whose mother ended up going missing when she was like super young. She was in the back seat, and then all of a sudden she's gone, and she's like, well, what the fuck? And so now, her and her family, I believe she has a father and either a younger sibling or like a best friend. No, her cousin. There we go. And they are all really close. And so this, what do you call it? This, not journalist, but like this guy wants to do a video documentary about the disappearance of Rachel Price. And then all of a sudden, in the middle of their documentary, guess who shows up? Rachel Price. And so therefore, the reappearance of Rachel Price. It's like, it's kind of like a, how do I say this? it's a mystery whodunit, like where have you been, what happened, what's the truth. Like when Rachel comes back into the daughter's life, the daughter's hella skeptical. She's like, where the hell have you been? You've been lying to me, this is not true, what's going on? And at the end I was like, low-key, this is a good plot twist. This is my first Holly Jackson book, and I can see why she gets a lot of hype. I will definitely be reading her books in the future. Do recommend reading them or listening to them, however you prefer to read, during like the fall and winter months when it's a little bit more spooky, because then it sets the vibe, and we love it. We love the vibes here. Next, you guys. Actually, no, I'm gonna go first into this other series, and then I'll go into this one because I loved it. I don't have the actual physical copies of these books yet because, you know, your girl's a college student. She'd prefer to read an e-reader because she don't have no room because she's a college student, but let's move on, right? I read the Poppy War Trilogy by R.F. Kuang. This was, I won't lie, at the end, I read this towards the end of the month, and I don't know what happened to me, but like all, what do you call it? Self-accountability. Is that the word, right? Went out the window. I was like, listen, I don't feel like reading today. And so what I ended up doing, I had to read a lot of these books on audio. And that didn't really like disintegrate any of my ratings. It just, it is what it was. I was doing puzzles, so I was able to focus on it. But regardless, let's get into it, right? So we're following a girl named Rin. Yes. And she's in this poor village town. She's like an orphan to this family, and they are opium dealers. And so she's like helping them at the shop. She has no choice, and so she wants to take part. Well, something happens to her, and she wants to take part in like this huge, like life-changing style SAT, basically. And so she goes to this tutor that lives in the town, and she's like, hey bro, can you help me study for this SAT? And he's like, it's going to be really hard, it's going to be the hardest thing that you've ever done. And she's like, well, you taught me to read, you taught me to write, you taught me to do basic arithmetic, like let's do this, right? So she ends up going to pass, or she ends up going to take that SAT, and she doesn't just pass with flying colors. Miss Ma'am gets the highest fucking scores in the country. How amazing is that? Because when I was in the 5th grade, or I'm so sorry, when I was in the 11th grade, 12th grade, like preparing for those SATs, those PSATs, I got hella bad scores. Like, I don't even know what the percentiles is for a good score, but I was nowhere near that. But regardless, thank God for COVID because I didn't have to take the SATs to get into college this time. But Miss Girl got the highest scores in the fucking country, and that made her eligible to attend this prestigious, like, war academy. I mean, it's giving West Point if you're living in America. And she was able to attend. So she moves there, and then a whole bunch of other stuff happens. There is, okay, guys, the magic system here is a little bit interesting. So I don't know if you guys take any, you know, psychedelics or intoxication or drogas, but like also, if you did, imagine if those drogas could give you some powers. That'd be crazy, right? So Miss Ma'am decides to go along the path of theology. I'm thinking theology, I'm thinking philosophy and like other shit that I don't really care about, right? But this girl dedicates herself because she ends up unlocking this like secret power, and she ends up using it. This sparks a revolution of sorts, and the story progresses. She ends up being part of this war. She ends up like leading her people down this path, and it's just, it becomes a lot of morally gray area, if that makes sense. Like the entire story went from like, hey, I'm fighting for justice, to fuck that, we about to bomb everybody, and then how am I gonna like come back from that? How is my people going to survive like that situation? It's a lot, and I'm learning. I'm kind of scared to read any further R.F. Kuang's books after this, I'm not gonna lie, because I was talking to Jamie Flock, I was texting her, and I'm like, hey girl, what is up with this girl killing off the MCs? Like huge spoiler, but I've just noticed a habit that she likes to kill off her MCs for whatever reason. And it's usually along the lines of like, I give up, here you go, bye. Like it'll be the world, not even like the world will be better off without me, but just like, fuck it, I'm done with this and I'm gonna head out. See y'all later. See y'all in the next life. And that brings me into the next book that I read. I read Babel. Oh, by the way, the Poppy War trilogy, let me just go over real quick. Poppy War, I gave 4.75 stars. The Dragon Republic, I gave 4.75 stars. And The Burning God wasn't my favorite. I gave it like a 4.5 to a 4.75 stars just because, like, I'm not going to lie, the FMC was very annoying, is putting it lightly. She's insufferable. But you know what? I understand because she's just a girl. Like, she's actually just a child. And she's going through all of this, and she's having to deal with this, and she doesn't know how because she doesn't have she doesn't have a therapist to get her through this shit. And so she's like, well, if I don't like it, blow it up. Literally. Regardless, let's go back into the next book that I read by our Kuang, Babel. This one I give a 4.75 stars because, and the reason it wasn't like, the reason that these books are just shy of 5 stars is because at the end I'm like, what the seriously? We went there? That's a choice. We could have gone anywhere else, but we went there. All right, cool. So Babel is dark academia, and this poor soul from China, yes, ends up getting adopted by this prestigious Britishman, and he ends up getting like private tutorage, if that makes sense. He ends up getting taught about like all the stuff, and then he ends up being like smart enough to go to Oxford. That's insane, right? So he goes there, and then does this even have a magic system? We'll talk about it, right? So he goes to Oxford and he starts learning these things, and it's really interesting to explain the magic system because I don't know, it's just really weird. But apparently there's like this only like it's secret society. It's like only this one group of people can like this, very very similar to the Poppy War trilogy, where it's like only a certain group of people can hold this magic and stuff. So oh, you know what? Okay, I remember now. So he ends up being part of the he ends up choosing the path of like words, and that sounds stupid, right? But like no, it's he's a translator. That's what he ends up being. But certain words, if you pair them together, can do very specific things, and I don't really even want to talk about that because I don't understand it, but it's really interesting. So a whole situation ends up happening, and the school ends up going on lockdown via a revolution. That's like skipping ahead, like a lot of stuff that happened, but essentially at the end, the school goes on lockdown, and they're kind of like being threatened by police and like government officials, like, hey, if you guys don't open back up the school, because now you guys are basically committing treason with this revolution y'all got going on, we're about to storm the school and bomb y'all and screw some stuff up. And again, why do these people have to die? Because it's not like you just went through an entire like 500 plus page book to just be like, yep, deuces, I'm done with this. Like, I really try to help my hardest, but like also nothing's gonna change. Exactly, nothing's gonna change no matter what I do. So I'm gonna just head out and see y'all in the next life. That's what I feel like R.F. Kuang just decides to take us on, the whirlwind of like, listen, we're gonna create revolution, we're gonna create change, we're gonna like be better for the future so that our children are gonna be safe, and then we'll never have to go through what we went through as kids. To be like, fuck yeah, I'm done. I'll see y'all next time. Like, that's crazy. Anyways, that's Babel by R.F. Kuang. Highly recommend going to read it, but also keep in mind that you can't get attached to anybody, because there will be some people that just drop off the face of the earth one day, and you're like, well, I guess you're no longer my favorite character because you just died, so, let me just go take a Xanax or an antidepressant, like, continue reading. But anyways, now we're moving into a couple of my 5 stars. So, the beginning of the month, I delved into... That even makes sense? Anyways, I delved into the Darker Shades of Magic trilogy. Now this, you guys, 5 fucking star series. I think the first one, yeah, so the first 2 I gave 4.75, and the last one, this beautiful purple one right here, oh baby girl, 5 fucking stars. But let's get into it, right? First book, we're following sorry, I just had like a brain fart. I'm like, let me just give you guys some context, right? So in this world, there are 4 different Londons, 4 different like parallel universes, parallel worlds, and specific people. There's only a couple of them in each. Like, there's only like 1 per London, essentially. Only one of them has the power to go between these worlds. So at first we are following Kel. Yes, Kel. And he's called an Antari. He's what's known as an Antari. And in this world, magic runs in abundance. Like, we got elemental, we got a whole bunch of other stuff that I forgot about. But it's amazing, right? So Kel is he's like the Avatar, right? He's like the Avatar and then some. He gets to control blood. So that's awesome. He gets to do blood magic. We love that. He is like traveling between the worlds. He's like a messenger for his kingdom, and is like keeping all the kingdoms like, up to date on the gossip, and like, hey, London here wants to do something with London here. Let's collaborate. Like, he's like a messenger, right? So he's going around, he's like hanging out at the bars after he's done his mission for the day. And he ends up accidentally stumbling upon this rock, which is really funny now that I think about it. It's just like a fucking rock, right? But this rock is interesting because it doesn't belong there. Mind you, he's in Grey London when he finds it. He's originally from London. Grey London doesn't have any magic. And he's like, first of all, this London is not supposed to have any magic. Why the fuck is this here? Second of all, this isn't supposed to be in any of the other Londons because this London that this belongs to doesn't exist anymore. It's called Black London because there doesn't exist. It's a fucking void. It's destroyed. He's from Red London where magic runs in abundance, and White London is important just because there's another Antari there that is basically essentially a slave to this brother and sister duo that are absolute psychopaths, and they thrive on pain and misery. And so I forget his name, but like Mr. Antari from White London ends up tracking down Mr. Antari, basically Kel, from Grey London. Well, he's from Red London, but he's currently in Grey London trying to put this rock back together. And so he ends up tracking him down. They end up fighting a little bit, and then this one girl. Let's go sideways for a second, right? This one girl, she's essentially a thief, but girl, she gives me Selena Sardothian vibes so hard. Like, makes Selena a fucking pirate and, like, you know, let her have the shenanigans that she wants, right? So this girl, what is her name? Bard. Delilah Bard. Beautiful name. Funnily enough, my car's name is Delilah, but let's stop getting off track, right? So Delilah, also known as Lila, also known as Bard, ends up stealing this rock from this guy. Why? She's a fucking thief. And she's like, well, I thought it was money. I thought it was going to pay for my lunch today, but hey, it's a rock. Yay. But she senses something interesting about it. Kel ends up tracking down Bard, and they end up having a little scuffle. He chains her to the bed by using the wood around her and warping the wood and basically chaining her to the bed with the wood. That's funny as fuck now that I say that. But yeah, so he ends up going away. Delilah Bard ends up like cutting herself out, and then they end up meeting each other later. But essentially in the first book, like the entire story is like them returning this rock to Black London while Antari from White London and trying to track them down and, you know, destroy them and stuff. They end up doing that. Mission's complete. We love it, right? Next book. Next book is very, very funny to me because it's giving Grand Magic Games. And if you have seen Fairy Tale, oh, Grand Magic Games was a wonderful arc in the Fairy Tale universe. But hey, let's stop getting off topic, right? So something happens at the end of book 1 that makes Black London decide to reawaken. There's like some spooky skeletons in Black London that decides to take over the populace, right? Which is why Black London is what it is now. So it ends up seeping into White London, and then it wants to take over some stuff, but then some stuff happens, and then the Black London, we're just gonna call him the Spirit. I forget what he's called, but he's like a god, right? He ends up infiltrating Red London and doing some shenanigans. After I forget what it's called, but like the competition, right? After the competition, the world has essentially gone to shit. There's like zombies and situations going on. Some people get in trouble. This is another book that is like, don't get too tied to any character because something might happen to them. But like Delilah Bard and Kel are also starting to have some sort of like romance going on. Like, no, I don't think they kiss yet, but like they're getting close, right? And then that moves on because now we have to talk about book 3. In book 3, it is all about like, look at this thick ass book, right? This entire book is defeating the big bad and trying to figure out how the fuck to kill the big bad. The entire world gets taken over. Well, the entire world of Red London, like the city, it's the capital city itself, gets zombified. The entity from Black London ends up like infiltrating the mines and like making them slaves and like zombies and shit to certain people, and certain people are immune to it, so they're able to go through this transition and like, you know, become something else, but they still have their minds together. Now a group of characters, because now we have friends, including Delilah Bard, Kel, this really cute pirate called Alucard, and the White London Antari, because now he's on our side, and a couple of other people too. They end up going on this quest to find this mysterious thingy to kill off the Black London entity. And so that is essentially the story. Again, don't get too attached by any of the characters, but this has an HEA for almost everybody. So if the person and the relationship and the banter is good enough, it's too cute, it's too like, you know, not sauce spicy, but like, you know, well seasoned, they're probably gonna be fine. But this entire book, this entire series, like I feel like if I reread this like later on in life, I would like rate this entire thing 5 stars. Did I get through everything else? Because I really want. Oh no. Let me talk about this one more book, and then we'll get into like the best book that I fucking read this month. Another 5 star, but not the best book that I read this month is Quicksilver. that's a turn, right? That was that. I don't know how that made it on my TBR this month, but hey, we got it done, right? So, Quicksilver, if you don't know, if you're living under a rock, is insanely obsessed by the, well, not obsessed, but like the book community. If you have read it, like they're absolutely obsessed with this man, this Quicksilver, this Kingfisher is his fucking name. Like we could have gone with a different name. But like we call him Fisher for the most of the book, but it's like I don't know. I know some people were like, oh, I couldn't like take him seriously because like I'm imagining a bird the whole time. I'm just like I'm not gonna lie, I'm imagining a fish because it's in the fucking name. But essentially, this girly pop, who's also a thief in this world that doesn't have magic, or at least is not supposed to have magic anymore, um, she ends up stealing a gauntlet. If you don't know what a gauntlet is, I think it's like the arm. It's like an arm guard. It's like to guard your arms when you're in battle. It's like it's some guard's piece of uniform essentially. And so she ends up stealing it because it's gonna fetch a hefty price back in her town. She's gonna melt it down. She's gonna make some stuff. She's gonna sell it. She's gonna be nice for the winter, right? She's gonna be set up. But her brother, menace and nuisance that he is, decides to take that and then go do some shenanigans and gets caught by the guard after Miss FMC spent the entire fucking afternoon trying to get away from them. But hey, that's a whole another story for another day. She gets captured. She ends up convincing the guard to take her instead of her brother, and the guard takes her back to the castle. The queen is very much like Maeve. If you have read the Throne of Glass series, she's a hoe. Not a hoe as in like, you know, she sleeps around, which she probably does, but she's a bitch. She decides to put Miss Ma'am through the ringer and basically like slice her open. Her entrails are like all over the fucking place, and she's like dying. She's like, listen, if there is a god, please let me die so I can leave because I'm not here for this. It hurts too much. And then all of a sudden, this portal opens up, and this not cute, that's not even a word for him to describe him. This man, this male, this fae, this being comes into existence, and he passes through the portal. He sees her, he glares at her, and she considers him death at first. She's like, damn, death is so hot, thank fuck he's decided to come save me because I'm done with this world, y'all. I'm trying to go to the afterlife with this, especially if this man's gonna be there, right? And essentially he ends up taking her back to his land. She gets healed up. She's like, hey, I thought I died, like where's death at? And then death comes through the door, and yeah. So basically he's an asshole the entire time, and he's doing it on purpose to protect her because fated mates and a whole bunch of other shit and blah 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 blah. But the story is like much more than that. So apparently Miss FMC is an alchemist. Why does that matter? Because the Quicksilver, which is like this very sassy, disrespectful, sarcastic teenager, rebellious form of metal, can only be like, what do you call it, like not forms, but like can only be manipulated, there we go, by an alchemist, and she's like the last of her kind. And so they are on this land because now she's in fairyland, I guess. They're on the brink of war, and they're like, hey, we need these relics to be made by Quicksilver so that we can survive. This entire story is spent on making the relics, but also close proximity, they get the chance to bond and stuff. She gets the opportunity to go through her training arc and become a badass. Her ex fling came through the door one day, and she was like, oh god, you're fucking here, god, it could have been anyone else, but they said you. Anyways, it was a whole thing, right? So Mr. Quicksilver ends up going through some situations at the very end of the book, and that's a huge spoiler that I'm not going to get into, but I do recommend reading it. Like 5 fucking stars. I was eating up that entire damn thing. I'm not going to lie. Like I was in my car just munching on my food, and I'm just like, oh my god, this is popcorn. This is good. This is good. I'm eating it up. But last but not least, because this was indeed the most emotional I have felt over a book. And 5 stars doesn't even begin to credit how amazing and gut wrenching and torturous this book is. So I read my first Kristan Hannah book in my whole life. I don't know if this was the best Kristan Hannah book to go into, because sometimes if you're going to go into dark romance, for example, you need to start off with something light, right? This was not light. This was for example, if you're trying alcohol for the first time, you want to go for a fruity drink or something really nice that doesn't have a whole lot of alcohol in it, and then slowly up the dose, right? No, this was exactly. This was a fucking roller coaster of highs and low lows and addiction and a whole bunch of other stuff. So essentially, we're following a female named, what is her name? Can you find out what her name was because she deserves it. Frankie, there we go. Miss Frankie has a brother, right? Mr. Bro went off. Oh, by the way, we're like, oh, sorry. I just want to start this whole thing over, right? Because we are stationed in like old Vietnam era in San Diego. So we're not just in San Diego. We're in like in the upper echelon society of Coronado Island. If you don't know what that is, essentially it's like the Irvine if you live in Orange County, and if you live in LA, it's like the Beverly Hills, I guess, of San Diego. And it's on this island. They haven't. Well, it's more like a peninsula actually. They haven't. They're in the middle of like building the bridge that currently connects the mainland to the island. You know what I'm saying? But we're in Vietnam war times, and Frankie's brother goes to Vietnam, and he's like sent off. Like everybody's super proud of him. The family's like amazed by him. He's like, oh my gosh, like that's amazing. You're gonna bring honor to our family, like all this stuff. They sent him off with a good party and a whole bunch of things, and so they end up finding out that Mr. Brother died. And so Frankie, being currently in nursing school, doing like what a whole bunch of females back in the day did, she decides to become a nurse. No, an army nurse. Yes, and exactly an army nurse. And I don't know why that was so hard to say. And participate in the Vietnam War to save as many lives as she can. It's not quite what her family wanted for her, and you find out why like later, but she like goes through like oh my god, the descriptions of like war times and like entrails and a whole bunch of other like very graphic, gory, gruesome, like don't sit with this like after you just eat, because you're gonna feel nauseous as fuck, right? This is not a book that to read while you're eating breakfast or lunch or dinner or dessert, especially dessert, because of how graphic the memories and descriptions are of what happens. But honestly, it was a really real experience for many people that went to war, that go to war, that are currently in war all over the fucking, world. But Miss Frankie back in the day was dealing with like the massage. I'm sorry, this is like just a really hard book to describe. I can say that after she comes home, she also goes through like a bunch of men in this book, and each man makes her deal with heartache in like the worst way. But what I can say, when she gets home, she tries to tell her family like what she went through, like all of the, because she's trying to cope. Like they didn't know what PTSD was back then, and she's like dealing with nightmares. She's like ending up on the floor in the middle of the night screaming because of all these nightmares that she's having. And her family doesn't know how to process that, because they really told all of her friends, all of their friends, all of their like close ones, close relatives, close whatever, that she went off to Florence, Italy to study abroad, because there were no women in Vietnam, right? No, there were. But then they were like, no, but you didn't see actual combat. And she was like, no, you can't tell me that, because I was the one that was like, patching up your guys. If you didn't see me, you were fucking lucky. You got to go home. You didn't have to deal with all the horror that everybody that saw me and that I went through, right? And so she's not able this entire book to find a place where she can properly deconstruct these emotions and these feelings and these memories that she's gone through, right? And so she's also trying to find a sense of normalcy in her life. And she's like, well, what am I good at? I'm a damn good fucking nurse. She's also got two other besties that are like, that have her back, like best friends for fucking life, dude. And they're trying to support her. They all met in Vietnam. So like they all went through this shit together, right? But this entire time, Frankie's having like flashbacks and like PTSD situations where she hears a sound and like she's literally saying duck for cover, and like she's like diving under a table to like escape a bomb that's not going to come because it's not real. It's what happens when you have PTSD. What happens when you've had a very very traumatic situation happen to you, and you weren't able to properly process that, and you're in the moment of like trying to move on, right? Everybody's telling her like it didn't happen, like you just have to move on, you just have to move on, you just have to move on. And she's like, how can I move on if I can't get through it? She's gone to so many like VA group meetings and be like, hey, like I want to help myself because like I'm dying over here, I'm fucking drowning. And they're like, no, they're all like a bunch of men, and they're like, no, we would feel uncomfortable if you were here because again, there were no women in Vietnam. And she's like, I'm just so irritated. So we're go through a bunch of highs and lows of just the most immense grief and torment. And like, no matter what she does, it doesn't get better. She's not able to stay above water for more than 2 seconds. And then she ends up trying to find anything to help her sleep through the night, right? So she ends up becoming a heavy drinker. She ends up taking Valium, which back in the day, that's like a whole other thing in itself. Back in the day, housewives were given a pacifier that basically ended up becoming an addiction, unbeknownst to them. Doctors would hand this shit out like candy and be like, oh, like you would see how the commercials about it, and there's like some, what do you call it? Like quotes in here being like, I forget what it's called, but it's like, it's a pacifier. It's like, if you're dealing with the fucked up situation, here you go. The happy wife, happy life. And this is how you keep your wife happy, keep her doped up and shit. And so she ends up taking Valium, which is the drug that did all this stuff to back in the day, like very historical fiction type shit. Like that is Kristan Hanna's thing. That's her jam. That's what she like, based her entire like career of being an author on. So she ends up becoming an addict unbeknownst to her. She's unable to stop. She's going through all these things. She's going through men after men after men. They're not like each relationship that she's had have meant something to her. Like she was grown up as a good Christian. I think she was Christian or Catholic, I forget. But like a good conservative girl. Like she did everything right. Like no sex until marriage. It was like a whole thing, right? But she could not do anything right. And like every man that she tried to get close to, for some reason or another, it wasn't gonna work out. It didn't. Nothing happened. Not like nothing happened, but like everything just went downhill and like became a fucking dumpster fire and explosion. But this book is very heavy, right? At the end, what ends up saving her is her building a community of women who were in Vietnam, who were combat nurses, who went through all of these things. And she like basically created her own female led VA because again, nobody else wanted to help her to go through this. So she's like, you know what? If this isn't going to work, I'm going to go through blind with all of my girls and we're just going to figure this shit out together because we are drowning, dude. Like there's have been suicides. There have been like so many fucked up situations that have happened to these women. Like nobody wants to help them. And so all of that being said, 5 fucking stars, Kristan Hanna. I don't know if this was the first book that I should have read by you, but like, girl, keep it up. Literally, like, just props to like applause and everything. And like, if Kristan Hanna ever did a book event of any sort in LA, oh, best believe I'd be the first to fucking sign up. So, regardless, that is the 11 books that I have read in the month of November. We are currently in December, which means this is the last month of reading that I will be doing until next year. I'm very excited because next year I will be starting off the year right by rereading my favorite books. I will be rereading the Throne of Glass series for the 3rd time, putting it on my Goodreads for the first time because I didn't have Goodreads back then, and also rereading ACOTAR for like the first couple of months of the year. And so we're going to set ourselves off right, but we're also going to, read some goodies and all those other things. But like, I'm going to be reading with intention next year. This year, I just went with what everybody liked, which is, it's interesting, right? I went with what was popular, but I think next year I'm going to lead with intention and be like, listen, these booktubers and friends and everything really have liked these series and like they have very similar interests to me as far as reading material. So I'm going to go with that, right? And regardless, we're going to have a good time next year. So stay tuned because I'm not finished yet with the year. I still have some videos that I'm going to be uploading and I'm really excited to talk about what I'm going to be reading next year with you guys, like officially, right? But if you like this video, go ahead and like the video, do subscribe, do hit the notification bell so you never miss when I upload a brand new video. Comment down below if you've read any of these books this month and what your favorite one this month was. It doesn't have to be from this pile. It can be a book that you read. And I will see you guys next time, besties. Bye.